It's alive. How's the focus? Focus looks good. Okay. So I cleaned up a lot of the extra bits that I didn't need. I also JB welded the knob onto the threaded rod, and that's not coming off ever again. So I'm ready for that step. Next question is how tall to make the rods. They're not equal length, I know that. The rod in the back has to go through this piece and this piece, and then the adjuster nut goes on the top. Where the rod on the front, at maximum ground travel, it's just the distance between this and the upper frame instead of across the frame. And there's a very limited travel, so I'm going to try and do some maths. I probably will epically fail. So I'm going to start with the easy bit. So on this front adjuster on the top frame, we have the knob, which is 15 millimeters. So we got knob. Then under that, we're going to have a spring, which is at max uncompressed with my spacer washers, 32. Yeah, I'm going to say 32. Then there's this base piece to the rail, and that guy is 24. So that's the maximum height these two rails can be apart. So 30, 50, 60, 71 millimeters. Now, this front adjuster only has an adjustable length of actually 11.2. And the bottom pocket is I'll say 11.5. So 11.5 on top and 10.5 on the bottom. So I only have 10 millimeters, 10.5 millimeters of travel that this rod can go up or down. So I think I'm going to knock this down to 30 so I get a little more tension on the full assembly. So time for some feel-o-vision. So my washers were 2 millimeters, so 30, 29, 28. Or subtract 2 off. 29, 28, 27. So 27, so about that much force. Then down 10, which would be 17. Whew. Oh, that's squishing it good. So now I'm going to go for the full 32. So just slightly compressed. Yep. And maybe I'll go 31. I'll suck up 1 millimeter. So 31 here, which makes this an even 70. And I got 10.5 travel. So my cutoff length on here would be 15. Should not draw it over there. 15 plus 31 plus 11.5. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 57.5. Yep. So that's the length of a screw I need. So it's basically the distance of the knob, the uncompressed spring, and then the 11.5 millimeters to the bottom of the nut that fits in this pocket. Did I not take... Oh, the other nuts are on the rods. Okay. So this guy basically just sits right there. Ooh. I'm going to be a little under, because this can lift up, and that gives me a couple more millimeters. Excuse me. But my numbers still work out the same. Even though this nut's going to lift up, I want the bottom of the rod to actually be in this pocket, so the rod can't do this number. So 57.5 is correct. So I'll be able to go from 70 millimeters tall down to 59.5. So 57.5. Oops. Right about there. This is basically going to be the same as the other times. I'm just going to mark it, hacksaw that guy off. I'm going to try and cut it long, and then I can grind it back to the right distance. If I cut it off short, well, game over. It's short forever. I have a lot of rod. Hey, Beavis. He said rod. Okay. Oops. Boy, that takes a lot longer to cut through. So there's my new little knob. So I'm just trying to grind off trying to grind off where the hacksaw wandered around during cutting. With any luck. Yeah, that works. So I got a nice smooth screw there. So then onto this goes a washer. Check my overall length real quick. 57.8. So I'm going to throw this back in the vise and just hit the end with a flat file. Shorten it up just a little bit. I should not need 10 millimeters of travel. even stuff out, but since this nut is captive, I want to try and get it, or not the nut. Since this bolt has a limited travel, the far end goes into a blind pocket. I want to try and get it as close as I can to the measurements. The ones on the back can stick down or stick out the top farther, and it'll work just fine. Okay, so I took basically all the hacksaw marks off the back of this nut screw. Man, speaking's hard. 5748, I will take that. Not that I have a choice. So, washer, spring, washer, and then the nut is already in the little pocket. There you go, there's the top stop. So at some point I'll have to figure out the other distances, but sort of right there is the maximum height, and if I screw it in, right there is the minimum height. So not a whole lot of travel, but hopefully enough. So for right now I'm going to set it to the max. And that's the wobble I was talking about. So this holds the front edge of the frame when the frame's closed. So it'd be nice to be a little more solid than that, but whatever. So now the back edge math. So on the back side, we have a double frame member with a clamp block. Then we have that goes up to a single frame member with a clamp block that's sort of like this. And then the rod can stick out this way, it can stick out this way. There is a hand wheel here, and nothing down here, and then the spring goes in there. So the spring, we know it's the same. So that's 31, spring and washers. This piece here, this is the frame member, this distance here is 20. So that takes up all but 4. This distance up here is basically 10. And then this surface here lines up to the top of that knob. So 4 minus the 4 left over here gives me 31 plus 35. So 35, hold on. Brain fartagisms. So we got 24 here. 20 of that's taken up by this, so that can go out. Redraw this somewhere else. So this is our bottom frame rail. On the one side we have the mounting block with the little window. That's 24. On this side we have the double block, which sticking above is 20 and overall is 40. And that's drawn about right. Top of this we have the spring, we have the spring. and that is 31. On top of that, we have the knob, which is 15. On this side, we have the L bracket thing, like that, which is which is 10. So we basically have 5 more millimeters on the front than we do the back. Because 20 and 24 leaves you 4. 31s cancel. And 10 off of this cancels that. So you got 9 millimeters in the front versus less than that in the back. Unless I'm missing something. I was really thinking the back would be taller, not shorter. Oh, what can I do about that? This really just doesn't look right. Oh, here, let me get rid of all my clamps. This goes on just like that. Grab another spring. Oh, it's totally right. I got 9 millimeters of travel on the back I needed to account for. So if I screw this all the way in and back it out 1 millimeter, that is basically the same as the maximum up travel on the back. Well, ain't that a bummer. So what now? I think my plan's going to be is I'm going to 3D print some 9 millimeter tall spacers for the back to go on these rods. So at the top of this travel and the uncompressed travel of these springs, this will be parallel to this plane. And then from there I can crank down the back and crank down the front. The backs can go up and down a lot. Probably nearly 15 millimeters, 20 millimeters, whatever you can compress the springs to. Where the front only has 10 millimeters of travel. I think that is the right answer for now. But I can still cut the back rods, get them mounted, and take care of that. So the new plan is I'm going to add a spring on top and then a 9 millimeter spacer donut. I'm just going to make a little 3D printed pipe and put it right there. So 20s cancel out here. This comes down to 5, cancels the 4. 31s cancel. 10, that, 5 and 5. They're equal. So the distance from the top of this rail to the bottom of this rail is going to be 70 millimeters. And over here we'll have 50, 60, 70 millimeters. Okay, now the threaded rods for the back is not 70 millimeters, it's much longer. So it's going to be 34. Okay. Odd dimension. So this is going to be 34. And then we have this on top, 17. Basically, in a washer makes it 19. So the knob sits up here, and that's 19 millimeters. And now I'll bring the threaded rod to the top of this nut when it's all the way up. When you go down, it will thread through the nut. So, time to math. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 30, 132. That's my guess. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 2 left over. Yep, 132. So I need to cut my rods off at 132 millimeters. So I'm going to clean the boogers and then make 2 rods at 132. And I should write those measurements down. 57.5. For the next person. Cool. Zero this out. 1, 30, 32. And time to hacksaw again once I run nuts on either side of it. You know what the real bummer is? I just unloaded this filament. I was like, oh, I'm all done. Oh. So my guess is he either used two sets of springs in the back, or had longer and shorter springs. That was another thing I just had to sort of guess on from the prints. Also, I found out today that DigiKey stocks springs, like lots of little springs. I was looking for something else and typed in spring and got pages of spring results. I was not expecting that. So, if you're looking for a little spring and you've run out of places to look, check DigiKey. You might have them. Oh. Darn it. And that rod was kind of hard to chew through. So now I'm going to clean up that nasty burr, make it look a little more pretty. Currently do not have the lock nut on there unless I can get this one off. Yep. Can I get on here? Nope. Second nut is on. And off we go. Much easier to file when it's not spinning. Okay, so there's one. It's a little crunchy on that end. But I'm planning to put that end down, so I'm okay with that. This end is nice and clean. So this. Need to remember there's a pile of parts on top of this. So I have that rod pushed in till it's just flush with the top of the part, or the bottom of the part, and then I'm going to crank away. Trying to limit my crankage to not smash the part through like I did right there. Well, what is done is done. But that's in there pretty strong. And now I gotta cut a second one. Away. So, get the nut started again. Put a second nut on. And I'm going to clean this end up first. all nice and cleaned up. These nuts down 130 millimeters. It'll be a while. And then do it all again. But with that, I think I just need to print the last couple parts, those two little spacers, and I think I'm done. Done with those for tonight. Clamp and cut. Ta-da! Probably grind this side off first. Maybe the nut will come off. Nope. One's done. And it's filing time. End's a bit rough. This end's in good condition. Okay, stuff that through. Okay, that's bottomed out. Crank these down. Now, in theory, this should slide. What did I screw up? That's how it's going to look when it's done, ish. Come on. So, right now I'm just trying to get this back rail aligned with the lower assembly. I just sort of slapped the hinges on there. I didn't really set these back pieces where they needed to go. That looks good. And I'm using the lower mounts to get the spacing between the two correct. Tighten them up till they just creak, hopefully. Okay, now in theory I should be able to lift it straight off, which I can more or less. Front to back, the wobble's not bad. I thought it'd be much worse than it is. And if I get this right there is where that's going to be. Oops. Those guys will go on like so. And then my spring assembly. But first, I need to clean up that other rod. Put it away. Not required for this project. I'll be much happier with myself on my next project when I pull out this chunk of rod and the end's not all just completely boogered. Also, it's a good way to get cut. Reaching into a pile of stock and snag a sharp edge. So, we'll take a couple seconds here and crunchy. Call that good. And put that away. Okay, so other than some vacuum cleaning, I think all I'm going to do tonight is go design up some 9mm tall donuts. I'm going to make the OD 15mm ish. I'm trying to match this radius. And that looks to be 15mm ish. So 15mm. I want a slide fit on this. So 8mm in the center. 8mm by 9. And according to my math, 9 plus 31 is 40s. And now we're up at 46. So I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. That was too much. 36. Roughly right there. Yeah, that's pretty level. So that'd be a spring. Plus 10. Oh, I forgot my washers. I got 2 more millimeters of washers in there. This is only 29. 2 washers bring it up to 31. So yeah, I think that's it. And that gives me a rough stencil to bed height of 29mm, which is 1.45 inch. So 1 1/8 inch. So if I make my board standoffs exactly 1 inch, I think stuff would work out. I might make them 3/4 though. There is enough space to get your hands in here and do some like coarse adjustment for larger assemblies. It's just, if they're all the way out to the edges, it's fine, but if it's small stuff in the middle, that's going to be kind of tough. But, you know, you can always lift the lid and do it. As you can see, this has moved this is about the biggest screen or stencil I could do, and other than a little dead space on either side, this is pretty good. If this plate was just slightly wider, that probably would have been better. Oh, nope, because the stencil clamps end here. So yeah, I can do a full-size stencil, or this plate can hold a board as big as a stencil as I can put in here. So yeah, I think my dimensions are good, assuming you want roughly 300 by 300 external dimensions. I think this is 300mm, and this would be 300 plus 40 plus whatever this sticks out. So yeah, I'm gonna go CAD up that part. I'll probably do another quick live stream tomorrow for the final assembly and flipping it and doing stuff like that. But that's it for tonight. Laters.